The post-game celebration was a cacophony of shouting, clinking glasses, and the heavy thud of bass vibrating through the floorboards. The air in the private room of the bar was thick, a humid mixture of adrenaline, cheap cologne, and the distinct, crisp scent of citrus that seemed to radiate from the man sitting next to me. John was still wearing his basketball jersey, the mesh fabric clinging to a torso that looked like it had been sculpted from marble. His arms were bare, revealing the defined, sweeping lines of his muscles as he gestured with a drink in hand. The scent of sweat mixed with that signature orange fragrance wasn't unpleasant. In fact, it was dizzying in a way I tried desperately to ignore. I swallowed hard, my throat feeling dry despite the humidity. I grabbed my cup of beer, intending to down it in a transparent attempt to hide my flustered state. But before the rim could touch my lips, a large hand with prominent knuckles shot out from the side, snatching the plastic cup away. John brought my half-finished drink to his lips and drained it in one smooth, long gulp. He slammed the empty cup down on the table and wrapped a heavy, possessive arm around my shoulders, pulling me into the heat of his side. "All right, that's enough for you," John said, his voice a low rumble against my ear. "You have a tolerance worse than a kitten. One more cup and you'll be unconscious, and I'll be the one stuck carrying you back to the dorms on my back again." The other members of the basketball team, high on their victory, erupted into a chorus of hoots and jeers. "Look at that. Captain John is managing his little wifey again," one of them shouted, pointing a beer bottle at us. "What do you call that?" "An indirect kiss," another yelled, laughing raucously. "Kevin," the point guard bellowed, "give the captain a kiss." "Go on." The dim, amber lighting of the bar was my only saving grace, masking the furious blush that I could feel rising from my neck to my hairline. I pressed a hand to my chest, trying to physically suppress the erratic thumping of my heart, and forced a shaky smile onto my face. "You guys need to learn some limits with your jokes," I said, trying to sound calm, though my voice lacked its usual steadiness. "Keep it up and your captain is going to beat the hell out of you." As the last syllable left my lips, the arm around my shoulder tightened significantly. John hauled me closer, practically into his lap, and planted a loud, exaggerated kiss right on my cheek. Smack. The room exploded with cheers. John pulled back, his handsome face crinkled with amusement, his eyes dancing with mischief. "What's the big deal?" John asked the room, grinning. "It's just a kiss, right?" He leaned in again. Smack. "I can kiss him twice," he announced. Smack. "I can even kiss him 3 times. My fingers dug into the upholstery of the chair beneath me, gripping the fabric so hard my knuckles turned white. The pack of hyenas around us howled with laughter, banging on the tables. The heart that had been racing moments ago began to slow into a heavy, painful thud. Only a straight man would be this fearless. Only someone completely secure in their heterosexuality would joke like this without a second thought. I let out a helpless, resigned laugh and placed my hand against the side of John's face, pushing him away gently. "You're capable. We get it," I said, wiping my cheek. "You're getting saliva all over my face." The arm around me didn't loosen. Instead, he leaned his hot, solid frame even closer, his voice dropping to a teasing whisper. "What's wrong? You disgusted by me? Well, too bad. I'm going to kiss you anyway." He puckered his lips again, making a show of leaning in. I squeezed my eyes shut, unable to look at him. Asterisk, don't provoke me anymore. Please. Asterisk, I stood up abruptly, the chair screeching against the floor. "I need to pee," I blurted out. "Going to the restroom." I turned and walked away fast, my back stiff. Even as I retreated, I could hear John's laughing voice floating through the air behind me. "He's shy," John announced to the team. "Captain John, take it easy," someone yelled back. "Don't scare your wifey away." I pushed into the sanctuary of the bathroom and locked the door. I went straight to the sink, turning the tap on full blast. I splashed cold water onto my face, once, twice, 3 times, gasping as the chill shocked my system. Water droplets dripped from my chin and hair, staining my shirt darker. I looked up at the mirror. The face staring back at me was flushed, eyes bright, and glistening with an emotion I was terrified to name. "Damn it," I whispered, cursing softly. Straight men had no sense of boundaries. They didn't know how heavy their hands felt, or how much their jokes hurt. especially when the person on the receiving end had been secretly in love with them for years. Yes, I liked John. I didn't know if I was strictly gay, but I knew with absolute certainty that John was the first person I had ever loved. We had been assigned to the same dorm room freshman year. Slowly, through late-night study sessions and shared meals, we became inseparable. Where there was John, there was Kevin. Where there was Kevin, there was John. I didn't know when the camaraderie had curdled into something more intense, but by the time I realized it, the feeling was a wildfire I couldn't extinguish. I wasn't brave enough to confess. I remembered a night from sophomore year when a guy from the literature department had confessed to John. John had rejected him with a brutal, clean efficiency. "I don't like men," he had said. That night, back in the dorm, John had hugged me from behind like a giant golden retriever, whining into my shoulder. "Kevin," he had complained. "A guy actually confessed to me. Do I look gay to you?" I had frozen, my heart stopping for a beat. "Oh," was all I could manage. He had rubbed his face against my neck, unsatisfied with my reaction. "You don't care about me anymore. You're so cold. Someone is trying to steal your husband, and you're indifferent." Hearing that word, *husband*, my heart had skipped a violent beat. "John," I had said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Stop making jokes like that." "Why?" he asked, sounding genuinely confused and self-righteous. "It's just us. We're best brothers." "John," I said, pushing his hand away and closing my textbook. "Best brothers don't call each other husband. We're different from them," he insisted stubbornly. "What if I confess to you?" I asked, the words slipping out before I could stop them. That." He had pulled back, blinking. I looked into his clear, honest eyes and saw the confusion there. All the words I wanted to say piled up in my throat, choking me. My heart sank, heavy and cold like a stone dropping into a well. I forced a laugh and knocked him on the head with a knuckle. "I'm kidding. Look at your face." John let out a visible sigh of relief. "Kevin, you're getting bad. You scared me." From that day on, I knew. John was straight. If I confessed, I wouldn't just face rejection, I would lose my best friend. So I stayed by his side, playing the role of the loyal brother, treating him better than anyone else, all while burying my feelings deep underground. One step closer meant falling into an abyss. I took a deep breath, shaking off the memory, and dried my face with a paper towel. I composed my expression and turned to leave. I nearly jumped out of my skin. A tall figure was standing right behind me, leaning against the tiled wall. I hadn't heard him come in. "Lucas," I said, frowning. "What are you doing here?" Lucas was the captain of the opposing team that John had just crushed. He was famous on campus, rich, handsome in a sharp way, but there was a darkness to him, a gloomy aura that always put me on edge. Rumor had it he played the field, and his reputation was messy. He was wearing a diamond stud in one ear. He blew a cloud of smoke toward me, the smell of tobacco mixing with the alcohol on his breath. "You're really pretty," Lucas said, his eyes narrowing as he scanned me. I turned my head, coughing as the smoke hit my face. I realized immediately that he wasn't here for a friendly chat. I tried to sidestep him to get to the door, but he shot a hand out, grabbing my wrist and pinning me against the row of sinks. His fingers brushed against my chin, cold and clammy. "Let go," I said, my voice dropping to a frigid tone. I slapped his hand away. Lucas didn't get angry. He just smirked. "Kevin, I know you and I are on the same road. Hiding it from John must be exhausting, right?" My blood ran cold. "What's the use of following behind his ass?" Lucas sneered, leaning in. "He will never like a man. Why don't you come with me instead? I have plenty of experience. I know how to treat a guy. A boy as pretty as you should be with someone who appreciates the goods." He didn't get to finish his sentence. Suddenly, Lucas was yanked backward by his collar, stumbling away from me. John stood there, his expression terrifyingly cold, his voice dropping to a temperature that could freeze water. "What do you think you're doing to my Kevin?" John growled. The tension in my chest released instantly. If I had been alone, I wasn't sure I could have taken Lucas in a fight. He was an athlete too. But John was a force of nature. John ignored Lucas for a moment, turning to scan me from head to toe. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his tone shifting instantly to something soft and gentle. "You were gone for 5 minutes. I knew some trash had probably cornered you." Lucas straightened his jacket, looking unbothered despite being manhandled. His gloomy eyes darted between John and me, lingering on the way John had placed a protective hand on my back. He smiled, a cryptic, meaningful twist of his lips. He adjusted his collar and walked past us toward the door. As he passed my shoulder, he whispered, loud enough for both of us to hear. Think about it carefully. John bristled instantly, stepping in front of me to block Lucas's path. Think about your dad, John spat. He's not thinking about anything involving you. Get lost. Lucas chuckled and exited the bathroom. Once the door swung shut, John turned to me, his brow furrowed in disapproval. Next time you run into something like this, you scream my name, he lectured. Loudly. I couldn't help it. I snorted with laughter. What are you, a Pokemon? I shout your name, and you just appear from a ball. John nodded solemnly, looking incredibly serious. It is a known fact. We are inseparable. If you call me, I will definitely hear you. I rolled my eyes and walked past him. I'm not doing that. It's too cringeworthy. John followed close on my heels, matching my stride. Compared to your personal safety, what is cringe? Nothing. So what happens after I call you? I asked. I beat him up. John answered without hesitation, his eyes fierce with a promise of violence. My heart softened into a puddle of goo. After the party, life returned to its usual rhythm. John's birthday was approaching, and I was consumed with the thought of what to get him. He had said he didn't care, that anything was fine, but I wanted to give him the best I could afford. I was in the library, scrolling through gift options on my phone while finishing up some work on my laptop. John was napping next to me, his head resting on his folded arms. I closed my laptop quietly. Immediately, John's head popped up. I was always amazed by his hearing. He was like a guard dog. Since we were in the library, we couldn't talk. He pulled out his phone and messaged me, despite sitting 6 inches away. Asterisk done studying? Heading back to the dorm? Asterisk his message read. Yeah, I typed back. I want to take a shower. Shower together? My fingers froze over the keyboard. I'm not used to washing with other people, I replied. It was as if I had triggered a keyword. John's fingers flew across his screen, typing so fast his thumbs were a blur. Asterisk who is other people? Me. Asterisk Kevin. I'm giving you a chance to rephrase that. Since realizing my feelings, I had avoided any situation where I might see him naked or, worse, he might see me staring. Plus, our dorm had a private bathroom, so I had never actually showered with anyone. I mouthed the words to him. Talk later. Back at the dorm, the moment the door clicked shut, John had me in a headlock. Who is other people, Kevin? He demanded, wrestling me toward the bed. I shoved his heavy arm off my neck. Everyone except you is other people. Are you happy now? He huffed a laugh through his nose. That's more like it. In one fluid motion, John grabbed the hem of his shirt and pulled it up and over his head, revealing a broad, muscular chest and washboard abs. He looked at me, his expression strangely excited. Kevin, hurry up. Strip. We've never showered together before. I struggled to tear my eyes away from the expanse of his chest. I don't think so. I mumbled. I really am not used to it. John barked a laugh, acting like an overenthusiastic wolf. You're being too polite. Ask any other pair of best brothers, who hasn't seen each other naked. What are you stalling for? Strip. He reached for my waistband. Hey, wait. I'll do it myself. I yelped, batting his hands away. We wrestled on the bed for a moment until he finally backed off. Once the threat of him stripping me was gone, John suddenly went quiet. I lay on the messy bed, hair disheveled, and glared at him. I told you I'd do it. You messed up my sheets. John was staring at me, his eyes slightly glazed over. I waved a hand in front of his face. What are you spacing out for? He jumped up from the bed as if he had been burned, his eyes darting around the room, avoiding me completely. Kevin, you're really white, he muttered. Then he shook his head rapidly. No. I mean, you smell good even without washing. No. I mean, let's just wash separately. The bathroom is too small. It won't fit 2 big men. I almost laughed out of sheer exasperation. I had spent all that mental energy preparing myself, and he was the one who chickened out? They say the first step is the hardest, I muttered. Having already lost my shirt in the scuffle, my sense of shame had largely evaporated. I stood up and unbuckled my belt, sliding my pants down. I threw a towel over my neck. I'm going in first then, I said. I'm sticky with sweat. John suddenly clamped a hand over his nose, his voice sounding muffled and nasally. You wash first. You go ahead. I just remembered I'm out of body wash. I need to go buy a bottle. What's wrong with your nose? I asked. Nothing. About to sneeze. He grabbed a random jacket, shoved his arms into it, and bolted out the door without even taking his phone. I walked into the bathroom and looked at the shelf. His bottle of body wash was more than half full. It was the same brand as mine, citrus-scented. He had insisted on it, claiming best brothers should smell the same. Remembered wrong? I whispered to the empty room. There's plenty right here. It wasn't until late that evening that John returned, sweating profusely. I had already finished washing up and was tucked into bed, propped up against a pillow with a small foldable desk over my lap, typing a project proposal. Go to Europe to buy that soap? I teased without looking up. John seemed back to normal. He grabbed a towel and headed for the bathroom. Don't bite your tongue and poison yourself, Kevin. Just go take your shower, I retorted. Our dorm was a double. For a while, the only sounds were the clicking of my keyboard and the steady rush of water from the shower. But as I typed, my mind began to drift. I had seen John shirtless plenty of times. But as my feelings grew, the effect his body had on me was becoming dangerous. I took a gulp of water from my nightstand, trying to soothe my parched throat, and forced my eyes back to the screen. 20 minutes later, the bathroom door opened. John walked out in a cloud of steam, wearing nothing but a white towel low on his hips. Water droplets raced down the defined valley of his spine and over the hard planes of his muscles. The hair dryer whirred to life. I squeezed my eyes shut and began a silent chant in my head. Asterisk, he is straight. He is straight. He is straight. Asterisk, the noise stopped. A moment later, the mattress dipped. The straight man had crawled into my bed. John wrapped his arms around my waist and threw a heavy leg over mine, tangling his limbs with me like a giant python. I'm sleepy, Kevin, he mumbled into my shoulder. Stop working. Sleep. I sighed and folded the small table, setting it on the floor. Mr. John, I said. Your bed is literally 3 feet away. I know, he yawned. I want to sleep here. What kind of best brothers don't sleep in the same bed? You disgusted by me? We used to sleep in the same bed all the time. That was because back then I started, then clamped my mouth shut. You still what? He asked, eyes cracking open. Nothing, I said, resigning myself to this torture. Go to sleep. I lay there in the dark, stiff as a board, feeling the steady rise and fall of his chest against my back. I brainwashed myself a few more times about his heterosexuality, thought about his birthday gift, and eventually, exhaustion took over. I didn't know that behind me, the straight man lay with his eyes wide open, staring at the back of my head all night long. Sometimes, the universe likes to test you. We walked out of the dorm the next morning and ran straight into Lucas. He had his arm around a small, delicate-looking boy. The boy's eyes were red, his lips swollen, and he was wearing an off-the-shoulder top that showed marks on his collarbone. Lucas whistled when he saw us. The boy looked at John, his eyes lingering, before shifting his gaze to me. John's face darkened instantly. He grabbed my hand with one of his, and with the other, he covered my eyes. Kevin, don't look. It's dirty, he commanded. I batted his hand away. John, I can't walk if you blindfold me. He pulled me along, walking faster. Then let's move. But Lucas stepped directly into our path, ignoring John entirely. Kevin, Lucas smirked. Have you thought about my offer? The expression vanished from John's face. I knew him well enough to know that this blank mask meant he was genuinely furious. He stepped between us, using his broad shoulders to completely cut off Lucas's line of sight to me. Lucas, John said, his voice flat but vibrating with suppressed rage. I remember telling you to get lost. Are you deaf? Lucas laughed, craning his neck to look around John. His gaze landed on my lips, sticky and gross. John's fist clenched at his side. He was about to snap. I quickly reached out and wrapped my hand around his fist, squeezing tight. John's family was powerful enough to clean up a mess, but I didn't want him to have a blemish on his record, especially not for me. I stepped out from behind John's back. Lucas, I said firmly, I will not consider it. Please don't disturb me again. John, let's go. As we walked away, Lucas's voice floated after us. Kevin, I hope you enjoy being best brothers for the rest of your life. My grip on John's hand tightened involuntarily. John stopped and whipped his head around. His expression was terrifying, eyes sharp enough to cut glass. "Lucas," he shouted back. "For Kevin's sake, I'm not touching you today. But don't forget, your old man is currently begging my father's company for a contract. If you don't behave, I wouldn't mind helping your illegitimate brothers cause a little chaos in your inheritance." Lucas's face went pale. He knew about the mess in his family. We walked a few more steps when we heard running footsteps. The small boy Lucas had been with caught up to us. He looked terrified of John, but he shoved a business card into my hand. "Hello," he stammered, looking at me with wide eyes. I'm willing to be a top for love." Then, looking like he expected John to eat him alive, he turned and sprinted away. I stood there stunned. I quickly tore the card into pieces and threw it in the nearest trash can. John was staring at me. His gaze felt like a laser drilling a hole in my head. "I really want to exterminate anyone who gets close to you," John grumbled, his face sulky. "Don't talk nonsense," I scolded. He groaned and draped his entire weight onto me as we walked. "I wish you could shrink. I'd put you in my pocket and carry you everywhere. Then you'd belong only to me." "You're a pervert," I said. "Only for you," he replied instantly. We made it to class, and John immediately put his head down on the desk to sleep. But my mind was racing. A thought, dangerous and hopeful, began to take root. Does John actually have feelings for me? Should I ask him on his birthday? Just a subtle hint. I looked at him. His profile was sharp against the morning light. I reached out and lightly touched his long eyelashes. Even his lashes felt stiff. Suddenly, his hand shot out and grabbed my wrist, pulling my hand down to his chest. He held it there, snuggled against it, without ever opening his eyes. I bit my lip to hide a smile. I made up my mind. When I gave him the gift, I would ask. Just in case the miracle was real. The weekend arrived. I refused John's request to tag along, telling him I needed to run errands alone. I went to the high-end mall downtown. I stood at the counter of a luxury menswear store, comparing two silk ties. One was a deep navy blue with silver threading, understated and noble. The other was a wine red with diagonal stripes, bold and passionate. It suited his personality perfectly. John rarely wore formal wear, but when he did, I usually forgot how to breathe. "Kevin? Buying a birthday gift for John." I froze. That voice again. I turned around. Lucas was standing there like a haunting ghost, a slimy smile on his face. He reached out to touch the red tie in my hand. I took a sharp step back. Lucas raised his hands in mock surrender. "No need to be so defensive. John warned me, I won't touch you. I'm just here to deliver some news." He stepped closer, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "The eldest son of the Chin family is getting engaged to the daughter of the Su family. Did you know?" My fingers clenched around the silk ties, wrinkling the smooth fabric. I stared at him, my heart hammering. "I don't care what you say," I said. I turned to the sales clerk. "Hello, please wrap both of these for me." I took the bag and walked away without looking back. "Check the internet." Lucas called out after me. "A group as big as Chin Enterprises? The news is everywhere." I ignored him, but the seed of doubt had been planted. I returned to the dorm feeling like a zombie. I tried to act normal. John was at his desk, headphones on, coding. As soon as he saw me, he ripped the headphones off. "You're back. Let me see. What did you buy me?" I dodged his lunging tackle, holding the bag out of reach. "I told you, you can only see it on your birthday." Denied the gift, he hugged me instead. Fine. I listened to Kevin. Suddenly, he sniffed the air. He buried his face in my neck, sniffing loudly like a dog. "What is that smell?" he demanded, pulling back. "Did you go see another dog behind my back? You smell like cheap cigarettes and alcohol. Are you actually a canine?" I asked, pushing him away. "You didn't deny it," he accused. "Who was it?" I set the gift bag on my shelf. It wasn't anyone. I ran into Lucas. John's eyebrows shot up. "Did he give you trouble?" "No. After your warning, he didn't dare." "Good," John muttered darkly. "That guy is like a lingering ghost. One day I'm going to teach him a permanent lesson." He turned his attention to the gift bag, kissing the paper. "Kevin's gift. Daddy will open you in 2 days." Hearing him joke, my heart started to race again. Maybe Lucas was lying. Maybe it was just malicious gossip. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't stop thinking about it. My fingers trembled as I typed Sheen into the browser on my phone. Before I could even type John, the search suggestions populated. Sheen Enterprises and Sue Group merger intent. Sheen eldest son and Sue heiress. A match made in heaven. Sheen Sue engagement banquet. My stomach dropped through the floor. I clicked the link. The photos were high definition. John, looking dashing in a tuxedo, standing next to a beautiful woman in an evening gown. They were holding champagne flutes, smiling. John, I whispered into the darkness. Is there anything you're hiding from me? John had just finished showering and was towel drying his hair. Kevin, that's an accusation against my character. What could I possibly hide from you? You know everything about me. Maybe I should trust him. I pulled the blanket over my head, hiding my face. John walked over and peeled the blanket down. Don't sleep with your head covered. You'll suffocate. I stared at him, my eyes stinging. He ruffled my hair. Don't look at me with those puppy eyes. I can't handle it. He climbed into my bed again. I curled into his arms, burying my face in his chest. John, I mumbled. If you lie to me, I will never speak to you again in this life. That sounds terrifying. He chuckled, his chest vibrating against my cheek. Don't worry. I won't. Listening to his steady heartbeat, I eventually fell into a troubled sleep. Junior year started, and I joined a startup team led by a senior. I buried myself in work. 2 days before John's birthday, I went to hand in a project. Walking through the hallway, I heard whispers. Did you guys see it? John and Sarah Sue. I saw it. Are they really engaged? Looks real. It's been trending all day. What about our Kevin? That poor guy. I couldn't listen anymore. The photos flashed in my mind. Logic told me to ask John. He would explain. But fear paralyzed me. I couldn't handle the 1% chance that it was true. I sent him a text. John, about you and Sarah Sue. He replied instantly. Asterisk Kevin, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Asterisk engaged, and it's not a big deal. I felt cold all over. I went to the housing office and submitted a request to move out of the dorm. I asked a mutual friend to deliver the gift, the 2 ties, to John on his birthday. Then, I blocked him. Phone, social media, everything. Every time I hit confirm block, it felt like I was stabbing myself in the chest. I couldn't watch him get married. The only solution was to disappear from his life. I missed his birthday party. I heard he went crazy looking for me. For the next week, I lived like a fugitive. If he came to my class, I skipped. If he waited at the dorms, I stayed in the lab overnight. 7 days later, it rained. A torrential downpour that turned the sky gray. I was stuck at the library entrance. I looked out into the gloom and saw him. John was standing in the rain, holding a black umbrella, staring right at me from across the plaza. A student walked out beside me. I grabbed his sleeve in desperation. Hey, can I share your umbrella? The guy looked surprised but nodded. Sure. I huddled close to the stranger, deliberately looking away from the figure in the rain. As we passed him, John reached out and grabbed my wrist. His grip was iron, painful. Kevin, he rasped. His eyes were red, rimmed with dark circles. He looked wrecked. You can't. He choked, swallowing a sob. You can't just sentence me to death without telling me why. What did I do wrong? I yanked my hand back, shaking my head. It felt like I had swallowed burning coals. Nothing, I whispered. John, you didn't do anything wrong. It was my fault for falling in love with a straight man. I don't want the old dynamic anymore. Asterisk, I love every second with you. But it hurts too much. Asterisk, don't overthink it. It's my issue. I just need some personal space. John's eyes were brimming with tears he refused to let fall. Then I'll change. I won't be clingy. Just don't ignore me. Whatever makes you uncomfortable, I'll fix it. Please. The student with the umbrella was standing there awkwardly. I knew if I stayed one more second, I would break. You're great, John, I said, my voice cracking. Goodbye. I dragged the student into the rain, fleeing. I didn't look back. That night, I woke up with a fever. I lay in my rental apartment for days, delirious. Delivery food appeared at my door, chicken soup, medicine. I knew who sent it. I ate the soup, tears mixing with the broth, unable to taste anything but salt. Weeks passed. I drowned myself in work. My senior startup was invited to a gala for young entrepreneurs. I had to go. I confirmed John wouldn't be there. He was busy with Sheen Enterprises business. The gala was at a top-tier hotel. I stood in the corner, holding a glass of champagne, feeling hollow. A hand clapped my shoulder. It was Mr. Henderson, a manager we had worked with before. "Kevin, why are you standing alone? Let's have a toast," he boomed. He handed me a glass. "Here, try this one. Low alcohol content." I took a sip. It was sweet. I drank half of it to be polite. Mr. Henderson watched me drink it with weird intensity, then patted my back. "Young people need energy. I have to run." He scurried away. 20 minutes later, the room started to spin. The sounds of the party warped and stretched. My knees buckled. I felt someone catch me from behind. Then, darkness. Consciousness returned slowly. My head was throbbing, my throat parched. I was cold. I tried to pull my jacket closer, but my hands wouldn't move. They were bound to the headboard of a bed. I snapped my eyes open. It was dark, just a sliver of light coming from under a door. I was lying on soft silk sheets. My legs were bare. I wasn't wearing my suit anymore. I was wearing a dress shirt that was 2 sizes too large. Panic surged. Was this a kidnapping? Had Mr. Henderson sold me out? I remembered John's words. "Scream my name. John." I whispered into the darkness, my voice trembling. A sigh came from the shadows beside the bed. "Who's there?" I rasped. A scent drifted over me. Citrus. And a hint of tobacco. "Kevin." The voice was low, familiar, and laced with a terrifying darkness. A figure moved, blocking the sliver of light. The mattress dipped. A warm, large hand covered mine. "Don't be scared, Kevin." He reached up and pulled a blindfold off my face that I hadn't realized was there. My eyes adjusted. It was John. He was wearing a black suit, looking devastatingly handsome and utterly dangerous. His eyes were pitch black, a storm brewing behind them. I looked at my wrists. They were tied with silk ties. The navy blue one, and the wine red one. The gifts I had bought him. "John," I stammered. "What are you doing?" He leaned over me, trapping me. "I'm doing the only thing I could think of to make you listen. You blocked me. You moved. You ran away. Let me go." I struggled, the silk tightening. "You're getting married. Why are you doing this?" "I am not getting married," John shouted, the raw emotion finally breaking through. He grabbed my face, forcing me to look at him. The engagement was fake. It was a business rumor the media spun out of control because of a joint venture between our companies. "I told you it wasn't a big deal because it wasn't true." "But the photos." "Just a cocktail party," he insisted. "I sent Henderson to give you that drink. It was just a sleeping aid, nothing harmful. I needed you to stop running. I needed you here." "Why?" I cried, tears spilling over. "Why go to these lengths for a friend?" "Friend?" John laughed, a broken, desperate sound. "You think I did this for friendship?" He leaned down, his forehead resting against mine. "I love you, Kevin. Not as a brother. I have loved you since freshman year. I didn't know what it was at first. I thought I was straight. But I realized. I only look at you. I only want you." My breath hitched. "But," you said. "I was an idiot," he whispered. "I was scared. But when you left, I thought I was going to die. I wore your gift, these ties, every day. I stole your shirt so I could smell you. I'm crazy about you, Kevin." He kissed the tears from my cheeks. "I'm sorry I tied you up. I'm sorry I scared you. But please, don't say goodbye again. There is no one else. Just you. Only ever you." The fear melted away, replaced by a warmth that flooded my entire body. I looked at the man who had terrified me and saved me, the man I had loved in silence for so long. "Untie me," I whispered. He hesitated. "Untie me," I repeated softly. "So I can hug you." John let out a shuddering breath and undid the knots with trembling fingers. As soon as my hands were free, I wrapped them around his neck and pulled him down. Our lips met, desperate and hungry. It wasn't the kiss of a best friend. It was the promise of a lifetime. The dark room, once a prison, became our sanctuary. And finally, the straight man wasn't so straight anymore.